Welcome, I'm Micah, and today's show, we've got a movie from acclaimed filmmaker T.C. Christensen to share with you. It's called Raising the Bar, the Alma Richards story, and it's about the real-life zero-to-hero story that set an Olympic record. And you know what? You don't just need to wait a moment to see this amazing movie yourself. Raising the Bar is streaming right now in the Angel Guild, and you can go watch it at angel.com/raisingthebarlive. So, as soon as we're done here, or even before, just hop on over and experience it with your entire family. Tonight, we're going to be going over what this movie is about, share some stories about how it came to be, and then we'll end with some amazing behind-the-scenes stories that you may have never heard before. But I don't think I can do this story justice all by myself, which is why I am privileged to be in studio interviewing the writer and director T.C. Christensen and Paul Wuthrich. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us and taking the time.
Love it. It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Let's just jump into it with the first question. So some people might see the film or see the poster, and they're like, okay, Olympic story, I totally get it, but they don't know who Alma Richards is. So who is Alma Richards?
Alma Richards is your classic farm boy to hero, and he was an Olympic high jumper in the 1912 Stockholm Olympics. So that is Alma in a nutshell. Grew up on a farm, trying to find his calling, his way in life, and finds himself on the biggest athletic stage in the world at the Olympics. And there's spoilers from there, but that's basically who he is.
But also, I think it's important for the audience to know Alma was a real David and Goliath story. You know, he's got everything against him, and he just keeps going and ends up throwing that rock right at Goliath's head.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. He seemed to be not just an extremely talented running high jumper, but he won more than 200 medals and trophies over That's crazy. Talk about just athletic. And it wasn't just in that one event. It was over a bunch of track and field events. Is that correct?
Yes, he also competed in the pentathlon and the decathlon. So that's 5 events or 10 events. And he was the guy from America for many years representing those events where they wanted to have somebody who could do the all-around.
And something that I love that you said was the David and Goliath comparison, because this was just, a farmhand from a small town in Utah. So to that point, this is a small town story in a sense, while also being a global story, it being the Olympics. But how did you guys, or TC, how did you come upon this story?
I've known this story since I was a little boy.
Really?
And that's because Alma Richards is actually my great uncle.
Wow.
So his sister lived with our family when I was a young boy. And I would always hear stories about Alma and so forth. And then I met him a time or two. He died when I was about 9 years old. But I had a bunch of brothers. We all wanted to be track athletes, and we worshiped him. We all wanted to be Alma Richards.
Yeah.
So and I've known this story for that long, and finally got around to making a movie about him.
Oh, that's really cool. Did you ever get the chance to meet him when he was alive?
I met him a couple of times. I high jumped for him.
Really? Did he give you notes?
Oh, I'm sure he was so impressed by me doing 2'2", is probably what I was doing. And just before he died, our family went to visit his family in Orange County, California. And at that point, he was pretty sick and in bed. But he was still just so impressive to all of us to see that guy has a gold medal.
No, I love that, especially the whole family connection aspect. That's really, really cool. So to sort of magnify that, you have this very dear to your heart family history sort of story. But of course, now you're making a movie about it, sharing it with the entire world. Were you surprised that not many people knew the story? Not even in Utah, you'd think that more people would know about it.
Well, I'm mostly concerned that after we finish the film, then they know.
There you go.
Because he deserves to have his story told. He did some great things. And, Michael, one of the things that I try to do are true stories. And so here now, also, I have this interest in it because it's my great uncle. So I really try. But guess what? He didn't live his life exactly like a movie. There were things that I did have to change and this and that a little bit, but pretty much the audience is going to see really what happened to Alma Richards in his life.
That's really cool. And Paul, I love what you said. I believe it was in an interview about the film, but you said it's one of the greatest stories never told, which I thought was an interesting play on words. Do you hope now that there is a feature film about this man's story that it switches from that saying the greatest story never told to the greatest story ever told, or at least one of them?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of TC's specialties. Like you said, he likes to do true stories. And as an actor, being in movies is fun, but being in movies about true heroes that really existed, to be able to go and look them up and see pictures of them, see pictures with their family and think this person did the thing that's worthy of being in a movie. There's something about that as an actor where it just makes you want to stand a little taller and be a little better, at least for me. And so I love taking that on. And one of the most common questions that I'm asked after being in a T.C. Christensen film is, why haven't I heard the story before?
Sure.
And I think the same thing when I read the scripts. I read the script and I think, gosh, it's taken this long to have this movie made or to have this story really well known. And, especially when you look, it's impressive that he won the gold medal, but again, he has this massive history of all of these medals. He competed for so many years. He's in the Utah Hall of Fame for athletics, right? All of these amazing accomplishments. And so, yeah, I that really rang true to me as one of the greatest stories never told. And hopefully, now that it is told, it would be considered, I think, one of the greatest stories ever told.
No, I love that. And
that's actually one of the things I love about I know I found a good story when people over and over come out of the theater or they've just seen the streaming version of the film and they say to other people, how did I never know that story?
yeah,
That's a good story. I should have heard it. That's a good key moment for me.
I'm sure that feels good. Yeah, that's really powerful. So I'd love to dive more into the story, but first, I love your guys' passion talking about the project, and I just want to tell the Angel Guild and the Angel audience, if you haven't seen the film, you're going to want to watch it right now. I give you full permission. I think we all give you permission. If you want to pause this live stream, pause this interview, go watch the film. You can find it at angel.com/raisingthebarlive. Go there or scan the QR code on screen. Watch the film. We'll be here when you get back. Go ahead, take a break, watch it. Definitely worth your time. But I'd like to jump into your guys' personal experience with the movie and creating the movie. First question for you, Paul. But this isn't your first time working with TC. You've worked with him for a bunch of projects. What has that been like?
I have been very fortunate to have TC call me back for a project or two, although I'm sure he's tired of looking at my mug at this point. Many hours in the editing bay, unfortunately for him. But I was blessed to be on Love Kennedy, Fighting Preacher for a couple days on both those films, and then I was able to be in Escape from Germany and now Raising the Bar, Alma Richards' story. And it's been incredible. Again, I love telling true stories. I love being a part of true stories. And I think it's fun to take something, a piece of that character away. You can try and connect with them, and there's a lesson taught in each of these films, right? As much as it's a story about a guy winning a gold medal, it's a story about life. It's a story about this person growing, and that's what people really connect with, and that's what you connect with as an actor. And so to be able to take a piece of that away each time I do a project is really fulfilling for me.
No, I love that.
I met this ugly mug over here about 10 years ago. I do a director's workshop for a workshop that's held regularly. And one of the times I did it, he was there as an actor. I'd never met him before, but he was impressive in the way he talked, in the way he acted. And I specifically said at the end of that session, I want that guy's headshot. I want it in my file. And I think it was only a year or two later I had something come up and started dragging him out and getting him in. But he's been terrific to work with.
No, I love that. I'd love to also focus on the point that you've both brought up, which is your love for true stories, how it adds just a little bit of that extra, spice to a film to where this is something that actually happened. TC, what do you think it is about true stories that draws you in creatively?
I like to say this. This is my quote. I think there is great power in telling a true faith-based story. If I just made up a story like this, Raising the Bar, it might be okay. It's a good sports film, whatever. But when the audience knows that these are things that really happened to these people and the way they dealt with it and overcame it, it adds a layer that film that's doing fiction, I just still don't think it can do as well. So for me, it's a matter of me being a not very good writer or director, and I need that added oomph that if I can do a true story, maybe people will like it.
Oh,
That's pretty true. It's yeah.
Well, an added layer that you brought up earlier is that this story is very dear to your heart because it's a family story. Did you feel an extra weight in telling this story specifically because you had the familial connection?
Yeah, I felt like I have a lot of family eyes that knew Alma and knew him better than I. And they're going to be watching this, and how are they going to react to the way I treat him? And I don't want to treat him as a perfect person. I don't like those kind of stories where it's about somebody who never makes any mistakes and they just find their way in life. He had troubles, and he wasn't good at a lot of things, and he had to overcome things. And so I always do have a concern that I hope I don't go too far one way or the other.
And Paul, what was it like having to portray an Olympic level athlete? Were you a little nervous? Like, I feel like, I was athletic, at least I used to be, but Olympic level, that's something else. What was that like?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Intimidating, yes.
Yeah.
So as an actor, you just never know when or how a role is going to come across your desk, so to speak. And I was actually helping, I think, my brother move one Saturday, and I get a text from TC. He says, "Hey, can you send me a selfie?" And I sent him a picture, and he goes, "Okay, you look like you stayed in relatively decent shape. Can you come down to my house?" And so I went down there that afternoon, and he says, "I need you to run up and down the street for me." And so I ran up and down the street, said, I need you to jump up and down for me. So I started jumping up and down, and he goes, "Okay, that looks all right." And I read a scene, and he said, "Hey, I'm shooting this film in about 3 weeks. I think we were 3 weeks out." He said, "It's about this Olympic athlete, and I'm recasting this part, and, can you film? Can you do it?" And so I said, "Absolutely." And then I thought, I need to get in better shape. I try and stay in shape, but I looked, you look him up, and, I think physique standards from 1912 to today, athletes look differently. But if you go and look at a picture of Alma Richards in his Olympic outfit, the first thing you're going to notice is that is one tight shirt. And the second thing you're going to notice is that guy has some legs on him, which, he's jumping 6'4", like he's hopping a fence. So I thought, I don't have a lot of time. Thankfully, the Olympic scenes were filmed near the end of filming, on the latter end of that. And so I just started clean eating and started doing a lot of box jumps and squats to get my legs to look like they could possibly run a little faster and jump a little higher. And it was fun, though. It was a fun physical challenge to have in there, as well as everything else that goes into building a character, the mental and emotional character building. But I liked that there was a physical demand, so to speak, to playing him as well. And it's been fun. It was a lot of fun to try and capture that as best I could. Now, I was not jumping 6'4". Everybody says, "Okay, well, how high can you jump?"
Yeah.
Not 6'4".
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, no, that'd be impressive if you could.
Yes.
But I love what you said there, as far as it's a whole person and you were capturing his Olympic athletic side. But there's a other side of there's more than one side to people, and that's like the emotional side, the human side, not just him as an athlete. What was it like capturing his non-athletic side, but his more personal side? And TC, maybe you can jump in from a director perspective.
Well, for me, I related to Alma because, again, as much as this is a sports story about somebody going to the Olympics, really what the story is about is this young man who is a misfit that feels like he has a greater purpose in life and has no idea what it is, how he's going to find it. And he's got obstacles. He doesn't have advantages of life that other people have, right? He is a very, like we say, he's a poor farm boy. He doesn't go to a nice school. He's 6'2" and over 200 pounds at age 14. He's a misfit. He's kind of big and awkward, and and he just knows he wants to get out. He wants to experience life. He wants to see the world. He has hopes and dreams. And so many of us feel that way growing up. So many of us think, what am I going to do with my life? Is it going to be worth anything? Am I going to have an impact and make a difference? And that's Alma's story, right? And it's a story of him discovering his calling. And that's something that I related to a lot. In my 20s, I moved 21 different times in the course of a decade. I had 17 jobs. I really struggled to find my path personally in life. And so that was something that I related to. Some of the scenes that was written about his parents, I thought, man, did TC talk to my dad when he wrote this scene? Because there's dad is like, well, it's all about service, son. I'm like, that's like anyway, it was so, it struck close to home in that sense. But I love that aspect about it because I think not only did I struggle with that, but I think a lot of young people struggle with that today, right? They feel like they're at a disadvantage coming out of the gate. Maybe they don't have that financial leg up or opportunities that they see other people having. And Alma's first instinct was to go the path of least resistance. I'm going to go be a ranch hand. I'm going to go do what seems fun. And he learned that, hey, if I want to get to where I want to go, I have to discipline myself. I have to get an education. I have to take maybe raw talent, passion, and desire, and I'm going to have to work at something. But when you find that, he found that he could excel. So I think there's a lot there.
For sure. I'd like to jump also to some behind-the-scenes stories that I've heard of. We were doing a bit of research about the project, and in a magazine, we found a story about a person named Sandy Hackett, if that's correct. Why don't I just open up the floor to talk about that?
Well, we have a character in the film that's a New York reporter, a newspaper reporter. And when I was writing, I had a person in mind that I worked with before, and I knew was going to be terrific in that part. He wanted to do it. It's all great. He's cast. And within a few days of starting, he bailed for whatever reasons. And I was having a terrible time finding somebody to do that. I wanted somebody with a convincing New York accent, and I wanted him to be a bit of a character. Just couldn't find anybody. And the talent agencies were getting a little sick of me because I kept saying, no, no, no. Finally, one of them said to me, look, just tell us, who do you see? Who is this person that you're looking for? And I thought about it, and I said, you know who I want? Buddy Hackett in The Music Man. Now, I hope that's a reference that most of your audience, that's an older reference, but he did this shapoopy dance, and he was a great character in that movie. They said, okay, 2 days or 3 days pass. And I get a text from someone, and they say, hey, I understand you're looking for a Buddy Hackett character to be in your movie. Yes, I am. Are you that person? And he said, yes, I want to do it. I want to be in them. I go, why do you think you could pull this off? And the guy says, I am Sandy Hackett. I am the son of Buddy Hackett.
No way.
I said, send me your picture. He looked good. Yeah. He read for me a Zoom. He's an LA actor. And Sandy came up and did a terrific job as that New York reporter. It all worked out wonderfully.
That did work out wonderfully. Wow, that's quite a coincidence, if you want to call it that. Yeah. another story. I'd just like to open up the table to both of you. Were there any moments on set that really just stick out to you as impactful to where you're like, oh, we nailed that, or anything of that sort? And take your time. You don't need to.
Well, there was that one time when you got it in less than 30 takes. That was really good.
You know you're having a good day when I can do it in less than 30 takes.
Man, I don't know that I have anything to say to that. Can I tell you something else?
Please.
Okay, I'm tagging on to the Sandy Hackett thing.
Yeah.
You said that was quite a coincidence, that we found Sandy Hackett. Well, let me tell you another way we were blessed with our casting in this film. And that was, I knew that I had to have a Jim Thorpe in this film. Jim Thorpe, who was the great American athlete at the beginning of the century, was an American Indian. And he competes in this movie against Alma Richards. Okay, so I was talking to some track coaches, and I kept hearing over and over, there aren't any American Indians that do track hardly. They said in 30 years, the only ones we've ever seen, they might be a long distance runner, but certainly not a high jumper. Well, I have an obligation to be true to Jim Thorpe. I'm not going to cast somebody who's not an American Indian and try to convince the audience that doesn't work. Well, we put out a call through the internet. We're looking for a high jumper who could act and da-da-da. Well, again, I get a call, I get a text from a young man, says, hey, I understand you're, yeah. He said, well, I'm a high jumper in college and I'm an American Indian. Have you had any acting experience? No, but let's keep talking. Okay. Now I'm worried about, I found a high jumper. He's an American Indian. This is college going all over the world. Where is this guy? I'm afraid he's going to say, well, I'm in Bangladesh and you got to fly me first class from there. Who knows with an actor how that's going to go. Where are you? His name was Anthony Garcia. Anthony, where are you? He said, well, I'm high jumping for a little college. It's called Weber State University, which is 15 miles from where I live.
That's great.
And so he came down, visited with me, and Anthony, who'd never acted before, did a terrific job. Although he admitted the week before I contacted him, he said he was sitting around his dorm at school and said to his roommate, something I really still want to do? I want to be an actor. Really? Well, a week later, here came the Big Daddy calling and made him an actor.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. Here, let's see what else. For the next part of the show, I would love to have each of you go through one of your favorite scenes, sort of beat for beat, and share with the audience what it was like to capture that scene. But since that does contain spoilers, I would like to provide a time to warn the audience. If you haven't seen this amazing movie, go to angel.com/raisingthebarlive, and we'll put up an overlay right now. And then you have a little bit of time before we ask this question of our two guests here. But spoilers ahead, so you're going to want to pause this and then come back later and see what their favorite scenes were. But before I ask that question, I would love to ask one more, and that's just, what are you working on? Give us an update, or if there's anything else you'd like to share with our Angel audience, now would be the time. But TC, why don't you start?
Well, Paul, I think you should tell them about Escape from Germany, because then you have that tie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as, sorry, anything specific?
Well, it's going to be with Angel.
Oh,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to go first, or you?
No, you.
I'll say, Paul, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Well, like I said, I've been fortunate to be in a number of T.C. Christensen films, and Raising the Bar as it's coming to Angel. We also have another film that was released prior to Raising the Bar called Escape from Germany, which is again, one of those greatest stories never told about missionaries getting out of Germany before World War II. They're closing down the borders, war's about to start, and there was one young man who was sent back by himself to go find all of these stranded elders and to get them out of the country. And I was blessed to play that young man who went back and found all of these. It was a guy out of Idaho, and just an incredible story, compelling, it's dramatic. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing that join the Angel family.
That's really cool. And it's not on the platform yet.
October.
So if you're watching this in October, go watch it right now. But if you're watching this live, you'll have to wait a bit. But that's really exciting.
Well, and we have another film which we're working with Angel about, and very excited. This film will be released first part of the year, and it's called Stand Out, the Ben Care story. It's a true story.
No,
That's the provision.
No.
And my son, Tanner, is the director of this film. It's the first time he's the director. I'm supporting him as a producer, his film. And he's done a terrific job. True story about a young man who's born with an awful disease called Cruzon syndrome. You never heard of it, and nobody's heard of it. It's awful. It makes the face look kind of like Quasimodo, that kind of distorted. And this young man who was born with that, you can imagine what he has to go through. And the great thing about his story is he overcomes it. And he overcomes it for two reasons, I think. One is he has a great mother who won't let him just go sit in the corner and cry. She said, you get out there and you play with those kids. You're just as good as any of them. And the second thing is he got into wrestling. If you've ever been around wrestling, that is a tough sport, whether you like it or not. It's individual, and it's so much just you and what you can come up with. And Ben became an All-American college wrestler and now has a great family, beautiful wife and kids and all that. It's a make you feel good story. Stand Out.
Very cool. Looking forward to that for sure then. Keep an eye out. But so to close, I mentioned you guys sharing your favorite scene and kind of walking us through it. Before we do that, I will pause. So there will be spoilers. So we're going to put up a card. We're going to wait a few seconds. Join the Angel Guild, angel.com/raisingthebarlive. You gain access to so many amazing movies and shows, including this one that we're talking about today. But here's the pause. We'll pause right now. See you in a second. Okay, and we are back. TC, why don't you start sharing your favorite film, or your favorite scene within the film?
We do a scene toward the end of the film where Paul is Alma, is there at the Olympic Stadium in Stockholm. And he's got really two Goliaths. He's got this bar that he has got to find a way to get over. But he also has a competitor from Germany who just keeps beating him all the way. This guy's always clearing the bar, and Alma is not. He's having troubles. And as he's about just getting ready to make his jump, Alma takes a moment and he starts to think back on all of the things that brought him to where he is now. This little hick kid from a rural country town, and now here he is on the grandest stage of athletics at the Stockholm Olympics. And he knows he didn't just, make up his mind and get there. People helped him. And he starts to think through, and we start to show what we've already shown in the film, all of his coaches and his parents and so forth that have pushed him along and got him to this point. And that has a huge effect on Alma. And as that scene unravels, I think it creates a great empathy for Alma, and that he knows he didn't do this by himself, that others stepped up and helped him.
And Paul?
At the beginning of the film, you see 3 words show up on the screen, and it says, "A true story." And we've talked about the power of true stories. At the end of every showing, everybody likes to go through scenes and say, did this really happen? Did that really happen? Right? It's kind of just something innate in us. When we see a movie, we want to know, okay, it said it's based on a true story. It said it's a true story. What was actually true? Well, as an actor, it's the same thing. I read a script and I have to ask myself, okay, what was true? What wasn't true? And as I was reading the script, there was one specific scene that stood out, and it follows a scene that TC just talked us through. Alma's got his back up against a wall, and he struggled to make it this far, even in the Olympic Games. I mean, by the skin of his teeth, he's made it. And he does something as he's standing there thinking about how he got to where he was, realizing that he didn't do it on his own. And he kneels down in the middle of the Olympic Stadium and he prays. And I remember reading that scene thinking, okay, is this just a little nugget of TC feel-goodedness, or by some small chance did he actually do this? So then I went and I looked up his story and I began reading about him. And sure enough, there it was in the middle of that massive Olympic stadium, right before the biggest jump of his life. He kneels down and he says a prayer in front of thousands of people, in front of athletes who had mocked him for his faith and for his do-good attitude and for his refusal to participate in drugs and alcohol, everything, right? All right there in front of everybody. And I thought, he did it. That is true. That really happened. And I thought, what type of prayer would I say? What would you be praying for in that moment? And so I did some digging and I actually found a copy of his prayer. He later said what he said in his prayer. And in essence, he said, Lord, if it be thy will, help me do my best. And I will do my best to be a good example and to set a good example for the rest of my days in my life. It wasn't, let me get a gold medal. It wasn't, let me beat this German into the ground. It wasn't, let me show up all of these other athletes who've been mocking me relentlessly and calling me names and making fun of me. No, it was, hey, look, if this is meant to be, then help me accomplish it. And if that's the deal, then I'll spend the rest of my days doing my best to set a good example. And man, I love that. What a powerful message. And I also love it because it's unspoken. You don't see that in the film. But as an actor, you take that into the character. And I remember filming that scene and kneeling down, and to have that in the back of my mind that it really was more than just getting over the bar. It really was more than just a gold medal. And in that sense, it really is more than just a sports film.
Wow. Well, thank you both so much for sharing that. If by some miracle the audience hasn't seen the film or doesn't want to see the film, angel.com/raisingthebarlive. Watch it right now. We're going to close with the trailer, but I just want to say thank you both so much for taking the time to do this interview, but also thank you so much for taking the time to make this amazing story, to capture it and to share it with the world. I really hope it gets so many viewers on our platform, and we're just so excited to help amplify the light of this story. So thank you both so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And thanks to all the Angel viewers that support us and support you folks all the while. They're terrific.
Thanks.
Hey, fellas, who's that?
One of the most gifted natural athletes to come along in years.
A high schooler. You cannot remain a ranch hand. You were made for something of wider influence.
Have you ever thought about track? It's a new sport here.
Next competitor, Mr. Alma Richards.
You just jumped 2 inches under the BYU record.
Well, I'll try harder. Have you ever seen anybody jump like that? He's a freak.
You got that right. But he keeps raising the bar.
For the red, for the white, for the blue.
What'd they say to him?
Fluke. Pick.
Hayseed.
He's your teammate, bully.
The essence of America is that you can come from humble circumstances and do great things.
The high jump, same as life. You got an obstacle. You got to learn to go over it.
You've got wings. You show them. You show them all.
2 years ago, this boy had never even heard of track and field.
Fly, my boy, fly.
Now streaming on Angel.